Hey all, Jenny Hale here. I thought I would make a quick video about the science of apologies because I find myself explaining this to people over and over, and it's really badly done in our culture generally, really badly modeled by adults, really badly taught. So to give you guys all a fighting chance of actually keeping your relationships on track, here's a quickie guide to how to do an effective apology. So first of all, let's have a look at the ways in which we get messed up by the adults in our lives. So as a kid, here's how you learn about apologies generally, right? So your little brother starts crying and immediately an adult turns up and says, tell him you're sorry. You probably aren't sorry at this point because, he probably really annoyed you and that's why you did whatever it is that made him cry. But nonetheless, you have to say you're sorry because an adult is making you. And then the adult says to your brother, he said he's sorry, now stop whining. So now you've got an apology, you're not allowed to be upset anymore. And you can see how this just sets people up to use the words I'm sorry as a tool of manipulation. So if you're upset with me, I just say I'm sorry, and then you're not allowed to be upset with me anymore. And needless to say, this is not an apology and it does nothing to repair relationships. It can also be a power play. Parents can often use this. You're not being respectful, say you're sorry, you apologize right now. So apologizing is immediately acknowledging that you're in the inferior place and the other person has the right to tell you what to do. Also, adults often refuse to apologize to children even when they have done something that is egregiously wrong and for which they really should apologize. Adults make mistakes, just like kids do. But when adults are forcing kids to apologize and refusing to apologize themselves, then they make an apology into a power game. So whether you were raised to see apologies as a tool for manipulation to get unpleasant situations to go away, or whether you were raised to see them as a tool for domination, where the moment that someone's apologizing, they're admitting defeat, they're admitting they're weak, and the other person has the upper hand, neither of these is a really healthy way to relate to apologies. So the kind of apology we're going to talk about here is where you've got two people who genuinely care about each other, some kind of upset has happened, and what you want to do is restore the trust and the good feelings in the relationship. And that's everybody's intention. So that's where we're starting from. If you want to use apologies in these other ways, you can, but this video is not about that. So let's have a look at how to apologize effectively. So just like there are love languages, and some people relate more to certain displays of love than others. Some people like to be told I love you, and to other people the words are empty if the rest of the package isn't there. For some people, they don't care what you say or what you do, but if you never hug them, they won't feel loved. So just in the same way that there are different ways of showing love and different people value different ways, there are different parts to an apology, and different people put different weight on different parts. So if you're putting a great deal of effort into the parts that you find important, but completely leaving out the parts that the other person finds important, they're not going to feel that your apology is sincere, and it's not going to mend the relationship. So the most effective apology is one where you hit all 5 aspects every time, because that way, no matter what the other person considers most important, you will have touched their most important aspect. So let's quickly run through them. Number 1, acknowledge what you did or didn't do. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to confess to things you're being accused of that actually aren't true. I'm not saying that at all. The other person may be right off the rails in their assumptions about what you did or didn't do and why. So just acknowledge the actual true thing that you did or didn't do. Like, I did stand on your foot. Just a simple fact. If you stood on their foot, you stood on their foot. Why, what happened, everything else doesn't matter. It's a fact that you stood on their foot. So you acknowledge that. I stood on your foot. And then you acknowledge the impact. So that caused you pain, it startled you, you still have a trauma response going on. That's obviously very stressful. So you're acknowledging what the other person experienced as a result of the thing you did or didn't do. Again, just the facts. Whether or not they're reaction, whether or not this impact is in your estimation an overreaction or justified or not, nonetheless, you did a thing and then this other person had an impact on them. And maybe in your world, you wouldn't have reacted that way. But the fact is they reacted that way. So you just acknowledge the fact. I stood on your foot. You now are having a panic attack or whatever it is. And then you express some kind of sadness, regret, desire that that didn't happen. Like, I really wish that hadn't happened. I'm so sorry that happened. Something like that. So you don't have to be sorry for a whole catalogue of things that they might have accused you of, but you can be sorry for the thing that you actually did or didn't do and the impact that it caused. Even if it was an accident, you can still be sorry. You can still regret that it happened. So you don't have to have done something deliberately in order to apologize. Just something needs to have happened. And express this in words that are true for you. If you don't like the words I'm sorry, don't use the words I'm sorry. Say something like, I really wish that hadn't happened. I stood on your foot and now you're having a panic attack. I really wish that hadn't happened. You can use many different kinds of words to convey the fact that you feel bad about the impact. And then take some action. Do something to reduce the impact. Can I get you a paper bag? Would you like me to hold your hand? Whatever it is. And sometimes you have no idea and you need to ask them. But like, is there anything I can do to reduce this impact now? Maybe you broke something and you could offer to pay for it. Whatever it is, you make some kind of attempt to reduce the impact that arose from the thing you did or didn't do. And finally, and for some people this is the most important and the most often left out, make a plan to prevent it from happening again. Even if it was an accident, even if you didn't mean to do it, see if you can find some way of setting up circumstances or your life, some precautions you could take, something to make it less likely that this thing will happen again in the future. If you hit all 5 of these, you are much more likely for the other person to feel that you have understood the situation, that you really care, that you honestly do have their best interests at heart, and they're most likely to come down out of any activation, any anger or fear that they're in, to physiologically calm. And after they have calmed down, then you may be able to have a conversation to compare your perspective and their perspective and maybe come to understand each other's point of view a lot better and see where there might have been some misinterpretations or misunderstandings and so on and so on and so on. But you cannot do that when one or both of you is upset, when one or both of you is fearful or angry, that you can't have a rational, calm, logical discussion about facts. So this is why an effective apology is a really, really useful tool for repairing a relationship, because it helps to bring people out of the fight or flight and back into a state where they can give each other reassuring social signals, where they can again connect to the warm feelings they have for each other, and where they can bring on their higher functions, the higher brain functions, back online and be able to have a reasonable conversation about any misconceptions or misinterpretations or anything like that, concrete things that need to be dealt with that you might have been discussing at the time that the thing happened. So the first step is always bringing people back out of the emotion. And the most effective way to do that is by using this 5-step apology. So there it is. It's pretty straightforward. Try it out. See what happens. And if you want to let me know, there's space for comments under this video, or on the website in whichever program you might have come across this video, you'll be able to make comment there. And I'd love to hear what happens when you start using this 5-step apology.